Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today we're going to be talking about finding a travel buddy or dating as a digital nomad with my guest, Taige Zhang. Tiger, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this because as a digital nomad now off and on since 2017, I can tell you, and I'm sure that you know, this is a huge problem that digital nomads have. They're always trying to find other nomads to date or even to travel with.
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of fell into this, so definitely been a very interesting discovery. I've been huge on travel and recently I got a remote job, so definitely living the life as well.
Oh yeah, that was the first question I had for you is how is your digital nomad journey going and how did it start?
Yeah, so mine was actually pretty recent. It happened during COVID. Before COVID, I was working in San Francisco. I was going to the office. It was like the tech office you would see on TikTok, just like super fun, great people, food, lots of perks, just such a great community and environment. Really loved it. And then when COVID hit, we had to work from home and San Francisco kind of completely changed. There was a huge exodus of people. All my friends left. They moved to New York, Miami, Austin, Seattle, LA, Atlanta, everywhere, Colorado. So then that was kind of my opportunity to work remotely and just travel, which I love doing.
I mean, I'm very glad to hear you got to travel. I know a lot of people watching and listening to this, that is their dream if they're not already living it. But how was it for you, that transition? It had to be really strange as well to not be in that, office all the time with everybody helping each other, working together.
I'm super social. I love being around people. I know like solo travel is getting more and more trendy. For me though, I just love being with people. There's a Chinese proverb which is my mom used to tell me it's happiness when shared is doubled and sadness when shared is halved. And I'm like, wow, that's so relevant to me because I just love being around people. And so, when you're on a journey with someone you like, that's almost like one of the best feelings.
Yeah, and I'm sure COVID had to be hard then because you didn't get to be as social as you were used to. And was that part of the inspiration for starting Fairytrail? Because now I want to talk about that. You're the founder of the largest dating app for digital nomads. And so I do want to start with a personal question, if you don't mind. What was any of this related to your own dating experience that inspired you to make Fairytrail?
Yeah, so I actually lean more into the whole digital nomad space after COVID. I actually built Fairytrail as a travel matching app as a side project just on the weekends when I was in San Francisco because I had this problem and also my friends too, if you have a partner, it's easy. Like who are you going to travel with? Well, you don't even think about it. It's like your partner, right? But if you're single, then it's like yeah, I mean, I want to travel. I don't have anyone to go with. So a lot of times people just like don't travel. They just watch Netflix. And I was like, well, I've worked in marketplaces most of my career matching, people with rides, shoppers with customers, just like a lot of matching. And I was like, well, why don't we match people on adventures? So I built Fairy Trail initially as a travel matching app with the opportunity for singles to use it to match with other singles on adventures for friendship as well. It doesn't have to be dating because at the end of the line, sorry, at the end of the day, you don't really know if you're a good fit or not until you hang out, right? So it's basically this idea that you want to go on a fun adventure and you want to do it with someone, and this is a great way to find cool adventures and cool people to do it with. And so that was launched. And then later on, once I started uh, working on the app, I realized people were seeking connection more than the fun activities. We had a whole bunch of fun activities from Airbnb, Viator, TripAdvisor, Get Your Guide, and but the truth is people were like, these are cool and all, but what I really, really appreciate is the connections I'm making. And like if you read the comments, if you read the reviews, people are just saying, wow, this, what I love is just meeting the love of my life. That was like so awesome. Or like making friends. I've like made friends from the app that I've done multiple trips with. And that's really where I get the value, not so much like these fun adventures we match on. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that has kind of guided the app development over the years.
I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. Like, I know as a solo traveler, sometimes myself, you think about the cost for one, how it's so much more expensive to travel by yourself. And if I could find someone on the app, for example, that was willing to like even share a room, share the costs of accommodation or, making food together on a longer trip, this would be great. And I'm glad that you're working on these problems. I'm so curious, how does it work when you sign up? Like, is it kind of based on a series of questions and you're going to match people based on their answers? Is it more just pictures and then you write your
Mhm.
profile? How does Fairy Trail work?
Yeah, so we're constantly improving and iterating. For now, it works very similar to um, a dating app where you create your account. And then it kind of works almost like LinkedIn, where you do a search and you say, okay, I'm interested in meeting men or women. I'm interested in meeting people in the US or in Spain or wherever, right? So it's almost like kind of like a cross between Tinder and LinkedIn. And then if you want to meet them, you just send a hello. In the new version, we're going to call it a connect request. And then if that other person wants to interact with you, they'll accept, and then you guys can just start chatting. And what we do really well is we make sure that there are genuine people on the app. So we work a lot on we have multiple layers of fraud detection, and we also allow users to report other users if they are being they're being bad actors. We allow them to be reported, and then their account will be reviewed and potentially disabled if they are, not using that properly.
That's really reassuring because I'm thinking meeting someone for a trip, which I'm guessing is a lot of times, I don't know if it's the first point of contact. If people first meet in cafe, do you find just from the data, are people often meeting first in a cafe or so and then they go on the trip, or are a lot of people
Yeah,
using
yeah,
this meeting on the trip first?
yeah, I was super surprised. So I love traveling, and I, was super concerned about safety when I first built this app. I was like, meeting someone in a different city, that's kind of dangerous, right? So the first version of the app was all about like you're actually meeting on a group adventure with 20 other people. It's, backed by Airbnb or Get Your Guide. So there's a professional business and tour guide that's leading you. So it was like all about safety. And, over time I realized that, people, using this app are 18 and older, and they are travelers, and travelers know how to stay safe, generally speaking. And um they know like it's safer to meet in public and to like get to know each other instead of like doing something crazy. So we've been actually reducing some of the safeguards just because of how people have been super responsible. And yes, I think it's really up to the people to be cautious. And luckily, people are generally quite cautious when it comes to meeting strangers. So we've been quite lucky. And on our side, we do our part by, taking all of the reports from users seriously, and also having algorithms that detect behaviors that are kind of, shady. And so we do our part to keep them safe, but we're no longer going to the other extreme where we were actually getting government ID, like we were checking government IDs before booking people on trips back in the old days. Now we're definitely like allowing people to take more control and have more freedom, which so far seems to be working well. A lot of people are saying like they love that we're not like kind of babysitting them anymore, and they can actually just like meet up in a different city, maybe for a coffee, or if they're just like going on a group tour, just show up on the group tour, right?
Yeah, definitely. I know it's such a balancing act, this trying to protect your users. And you have certain legal obligations when you make something, but also to help them just naturally connect. So I'm glad that there's been some iterations based on what real behavior has been. So, do you have any data on how many people are using your app for dating and like for travel buddies from the beginning?
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually the behavior is quite different depending if you're a man or a woman. So about 50% of our female users are using it for long-term and short-term relationships, and then 50% are using it for friends and travel buddies. In terms of the male users, it's about 75% looking for dating, short term and long term, and about 25% looking for friends. So it's quite a difference. So that was really interesting. That said, it like on the women's side, it's so evenly split, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that is. I mean, they always say that travel is a great test of a relationship, even a new one. And I think it helps when you have an app that has something so specifically focused on travel or a starting point, right? It's not just open, like we
Yes.
could talk about anything. So you said you like Hawaii. Why? I think that would help me if I was meeting someone for the first time after
Yeah, it
talking on the
definitely
app.
takes the pressure off. It's like, hey, we're both doing this fun activity. We're both like learning about the world, learning about each other. So it's definitely less pressure than going on dates sometimes. And it's more fun. It's almost like you're checking off your bucket list while having the opportunity to meet new people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm wondering, what are some unique features that Fairytrail offers? Why should I use Fairytrail instead of another app?
Yeah, good question. So I think the main reason why people love Fairy Trail is it's a 10x improvement over like Bumble, Tinder, and Hinge for um, digital nomads. The thing is for digital nomads, if you're looking for a long-term partner, it's really hard to find someone who has the desire, freedom, and resources to travel with you. I mean, 90% of people, don't have that like almost superpower, right? So that means you have to do 10x more work to find someone who also shares that lifestyle and that passion. And so what ends up happening is a lot of digital nomads, they have this, need to either sacrifice their lifestyle, and it's like, okay, I'll just, stay here in New York and live in New York because my partner has an office job, or I'll just meet some locals, which are great for a cultural experience, but not so much if you want a long-term relationship, right? So that's one of the biggest reasons why people love Fairy Trail. Another one is just it's like really interesting people you meet on this app. Like there's people who are like traveling the world. There's people who are millionaire startups. There's like semi-professional athletes that are like, I can't have a normal relationship because I'm like on the road all the time. There's just so many interesting people. And there's also a lot of aspirational users who want to become digital nomads, but they have like a hybrid job right now. And if they were to meet a partner, that partner could help them, give them tips, give them that support to be fully remote. And I think so many people want to live the dream of like traveling the world with someone they love. And it's a bit daunting to like not have that person and just do it yourself, and hopefully you meet that person on the road. It's a little bit daunting. So Fairy Trail also gives people that, who are not fully remote yet, that ability to connect with someone, even get tips. Like a lot of people are just getting, great friendship and getting great connections, and working up their courage to do that. And I think the last thing is our profiles are really interesting. If you go on Fairytrail, every person is asked about their most adventurous experience. So it's just such a great conversation starter and inspiration for travel. So for example, like, going on a silent retreat, or being chased up a tree by a rhino, those are like such interesting prompts that is really great for, starting a conversation as well as almost getting ideas for your next adventure.
That is so true. Everybody loves to share their travel stories and hear others as well. And I've definitely been inspired to go places. So that's great. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Okay, so and you've already mentioned this a few times, but on your website you mentioned that there's an option to meet for group tours and adventures. So people that you've met on the app. Can you describe how this would work if you matched with somebody or started chatting on the app?
Yeah, so in the first version, if you wanted to meet the person, you could actually book a ticket together. So let's say you both want to go snorkeling with turtles. You can actually buy a ticket and then you're just gonna show up on this group activity. It'll be super um, social, and we currently are still trying to figure out how to make this work, because what we heard from people is a lot of times people, mm, are having conflicts in terms of dates and like the tours. They might want to do the turtle one, but then there's thinking, oh, we actually want to do like the food tour now. And it's a lot of logistics. So we're still working out the best way to make these group activities happen. And it's going to be a journey and process. We're going to learn as we work with our users. We actually have kind of we call it a secret council, where our users just give us feedback for new ideas and experiments that we're doing. We're always going to be trying new things because we want to build a really useful product for our users, and it involves a lot of experimentation.
Sounds great. And so while I'm thinking about it, is it free to use Fairytrail or how does the membership work?
Yeah, so this is something we're also playing around with. Currently, the idea is we have three plans. There's free forever after verification. There's silver and gold. So free forever is we charge a one-time verification fee, and it's a few bucks, and then you can use the app for free forever. And then if you do have more money and want to save time, there's also higher tiers that you can purchase for for the power users.
What would help them save time if they paid? What would they save time on if they paid more money?
Yeah, so one thing that's kind of tiring is looking through profiles, because there's thousands and thousands of profiles, right? So you're like, even though it's kind of fun sometimes, it's also quite tedious. So on Tinder, there's a feature called Boost, where your profile is seen first. So we're going to allow that as well. But Tinder charges something like $5 per hour for a boost, which is very expensive. So if you were to boost your profile for a month, that would be over like $4,000, which is really expensive. So in our most premium feature, we kind of give your profile a constant boost for not nearly as much as $4,000. So that is just a time saver. And there are people who, you know, have enough money that they would just prefer to, um, save some time instead of like spending as much time looking through profiles.
Is that also what the gold option would be like? It
Yeah,
would
so
be
that would
even
be the
more of a
gold one.
shortcut.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely like, even if you're not in the app, maybe you're out there like surfing, and then you come back at the end of the day, you have all of these already people who have seen your profile and want to connect with you. So it definitely saves a lot of time for people.
No, yeah, that's true. I'm wondering, is there any kind of questionnaire that's built into your app as well? Because I'm thinking maybe the silver or gold, they could see, people that matched with their questions more. I know not everybody's looking for someone who's very similar to them, but maybe that could be something. I would appreciate something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have feedback, I would love to hear. We have users who are constantly giving us great ideas, and we will be um, making adjustments to our plans so that like it works really great for our users and meets their needs. In terms of additional features, we currently don't have anything major, but we will be adding more and more. The one feature I am excited about is upcoming destinations. So digital nomads often have like a number of places that they would like to visit that year. So for example, Japan or other festivals or conferences. And in your profile, you can actually indicate what are your upcoming destinations, and other people who do have a similar desire can match with you on those. For example, um, like for example, Japan's really hot. So if you have that, you can put that on your profile and people can actually search for that. And then it's like, oh, you want to go to Japan too, and just have a really great conversation about that. Or you want to go to this music festival, that's so cool. I'll be there as well. And it's just such a great way to make a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And it saves time to get that out of somebody because I know it's a very common question we digital nomads ask each other.
Exactly. So, yeah, so this app is like super focused on just making life simpler and making connections easier for digital nomads. We have another feature for digital nomads, which is like how remote you are. Like, are you fully remote, hybrid, or not remote? Because some digital nomads only want to meet other fully remote ones, right? And some are open. And we also will be adding a new feature in the future, which is like affiliations. So for example, if you have a RV or if you went to Burning Man, a lot of our users are also people who have went to Burning Man. Or if you're retired, about 10, up to 10% of our users are retired, which is really interesting.
That's really interesting. I think that would
Yeah.
be very helpful. Do you have a feature that talks about how long someone has been a digital nomad?
Not yet. Do you think it would make sense? Do you think that would be something interesting to see?
It could just give more information, but I think it depends. The people you mentioned who are looking for tips, maybe they're
Mhm.
gonna, it's a different energy if they're with a new person who's a person who's also new on the digital nomad journey, or they can learn a lot from somebody and they know both parties know how experienced the other already is. But it's interesting because this isn't something I've seen on on regular dating apps. Like, how experienced at dating are you?
Yeah, that does seem like it could be something cool to try and give good indication on like how, because maybe you do want to connect with someone who's really experienced there to get some tips. Um what's also really exciting is we have so many people who are looking to do the digital nomad lifestyle, and it's like they feel they want to do it, but they're not there yet. And it's just such a great way to connect with others who feel like you're not on this journey by yourself.
Oh yeah, and there's so much to learn from the people who are more experienced. And I think the other thing that might be nice is to have like my dream destination. And
Mhm.
so places you're already going, but then maybe something that's on your bucket list. So maybe you can start a conversation with someone you find on the app and you can plan to do that together.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that we do have, which I think people quite like, and it's kind of similar, is top wishes, which goes into kind of our brand of, fairy tale. Right. So our whole brand is it's kind of like magical, but also outdoorsy and like hiking oriented, like with a trail. So we're kind of like spanning both worlds, both like being kind of romantic, but also at the same and magical, and also being super outdoorsy and adventure focused. And so one question we do have is like top wishes, and people put really, really good stuff there, which is like very vulnerable as well. So you really sometimes do get to connect with people in a in a very nice way when people are like putting down their top wishes. Like, is it to like, start a dog shelter? Is it to open a cafe somewhere? Like, is it to grow their company, or is it just to like, see the Amazon, right? So it's really interesting to to see what people are putting down.
Really love that. And yes, that would make such great connections, like deeper connections than, some other apps I could think about.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of more questions for you, Tiger. One of them being on your website, you mentioned that you have a secret society, which AKA is like a newsletter. I'm curious what this newsletter includes. Like, does it include digital nomad profiles of people where some people can put themselves in the newsletter and say, hey, I'm single and I'd like to travel with you?
Good. Yeah, that's a good like that's a good idea actually. Our secret council isn't um it's actually a product council where people can say, hey, I would love to, have the ability to do X or Y in the app. It's not so much the newsletter. So it is a little bit misleading. So the thing is, this app currently, it's still very small. It's mostly me working on it. And, I'm very much a product and engineering person. And so we do I think we're not doing as much of a good job on the marketing side. So, for example, our newsletter, we collect emails and we have, a few thousand emails, but we're not actively sending anything out. So that's why when you said like, hey, is it showcasing profiles? Like what, like, is it like, what is it? And I was thinking, darn, we really need like a marketing person to take care of this. So at this point, our secret council is like people who have volunteered to like go on chats with me and like go on Zoom and learn about the app and give feedback about the new version of the app. And our newsletter is something that we're still developing.
Right. Well, I know you're not alone. A lot of people want to put out great newsletters full of information, but sometimes it's one of the things that comes later. And yes, so many people need help with marketing. So I really hope that this can get going because it sounds like a really great mix, like you said, of like nature and people looking for connections, and people who don't always know how to find those people because they're digital nomads or they're traveling a lot. So I'm sure this is going to come. Um,
Yeah, and if there's
yeah,
any
go ahead.
listeners out there that's interested in getting involved with Fairytrail, I think it's also like the perfect opportunity to yeah, just to reach out and say, hey, like I'm interested in, helping with a newsletter or anything else because right now we're such a small team, but we're very like mission focused. We really care about health and well-being. That's why I'm working on Fairytrail and other people are working on it as well. It's just because one of the biggest factors in terms of quality of life and well-being is having wonderful, loving, supportive relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the world is getting more and more isolated in some ways, I think, and to have more connection is a great thing. And I hope that people listening or watching this, we're going to put the links to how you can get in touch and input, share your ideas. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And my last question is kind of related to the one before. Do you have any stories already of digital nomads who've met through your app and even gotten married, for example?
Hmm. We definitely have quite a lot of couples. One person found someone to do van life with. She let me know that was very exciting. She always wanted to do van life, and she matched with someone who happened to have an RV. So they've been doing cross-country journey in the US. So super awesome. Another one was a remote worker who met another remote worker, and they ultimately ended up like going on adventures and then moving to the same city together. Just because remote workers, it's very easy to be together if you want to be, or you don't have to find a new job. And yeah, we've also had some like international relationships where one person's from Germany, and then meeting someone in in South America, and now they're like figuring out like their next destination, and like they're kind of like a traveling couple now. And we've also had friends that have met through the app where it's more just like, hey, let's just go on adventures. And now they're kind of like really close friends, which is exactly what we're trying to do, trying to help people find each other, because I think that's one of the hardest things. Like we love to travel, but sometimes finding someone who kind of shares that lifestyle and that dream can be a bit challenging on the traditional apps.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think more people, like less people are approaching others to do something like this, to travel together when they don't know each other. So to have strangers have a way to meet each other and find each other, it's going to lead to great things.
Yeah.
Well, Tiger, thank you so much for answering all these questions and sharing more about Fairy Trail with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Um, So I think the big thing is we're coming out with a new version of the app very soon. So we've been super busy working on this new version. So I'm very excited um, to release it in the next month or two. So be on the lookout for that. And then also, yeah, we are super eager to meet other digital nomad communities. So if you are part of a digital nomad community or just a digital nomad, we'd love to chat with you. So we want to know how we can make the product better, and also potentially we could collaborate.
That would be amazing. So if people want to follow you, where can they go?
So we are starting to ramp up our Instagram. So our Instagram is Fairytrail app. So that could be one way. The other is just to send us an email. Our email is team@fairytrail.app.
All right. Well, great. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this and you've been inspired, go to and follow on Instagram. And I hope you guys can all start meeting people and making deeper connections as digital nomads and travelers. Tiger, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great chatting.
Thank you.